Hey guys, welcome to our first EPRO podcast. My name is Joseph Ngol.
My name is Soham Shukla.
Today, we will introduce you to what we do in the EPRO.
Uh, People might be asking, what is the EPRO? Why is a group of teenagers calling themselves an EPRO and making such a YouTube channel about it? You want to explain that?
Yeah, sure. So, our goal is to reduce plastic pollution in the environment via re education and mitigation in rivers. Um, In the world of 2020, we're experiencing so many problems, race, coronavirus, the environment, and the economy, but we need to still focus on each problem specifically to solve all these problems, especially plastic pollution. We often recognize problems if it affects us, and plastic pollution is soon going to haunt us in the future.
Yeah, well, a
Although
lot. You want to keep on going?
Yeah,
Okay.
although we do not recognize the health problems of plastic pollution, we have marine organisms to look at. Many of them die due to consumption of plastics, and I guarantee you that we do not have to experience more death than what we're seeing in 2020. This is why we want to re educate the world about plastic pollution.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, but world problems are typically linked together. Plastic pollution influences sanitation in poorer countries. Pollution in general, especially like climate change, that's from pollution and leakage to the environment. uh, you could already be consuming food that has plastic in it or other chemicals. Plastic is a chemical compound made of polymers and other chemicals that, when it breaks down to smaller and smaller microplastics, those chemicals are released. And those have detrimental effects on our environment.
Here's some more examples about our current plastic pollution crisis. According to statistics, plastic emissions are expected to triple by 2040. 1 in 5 trillion plastic bags are consumed each year, which is 10 million bags per minute. And if we grouped all those plastic bags together, they would cover the same size as France. Also, most animals killed by plastic waste remain undiscovered as they sink to the bottom or eaten by other wildlife. This makes it nearly impossible to observe and monitor the extent of our impact created by plastic. Also, there are approximately 293,000 tons of plastic on the surface of our oceans. 5 trillion plastic particles are in the ocean right now. Like, we can go on, but
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of plastic in the ocean. But we like to focus on preventing more from getting in through global mindset, international change, making like innovations that can help prevent it in developing countries. Developing countries have a lot of plastic leakage as they are large consumers of plastic, not due because they have tons of money, but it's a cheap way for them to easily move stuff, build houses. It's a good material that's cheap. But at the same time, they do not have the infrastructure necessary to deposit of it. And then so it just eventually gets leaked to the environment, which is why we want to focus on them and helping them organize their plastic so our whole world can benefit.
so let's first explain what we're actually doing. Because we can stay here and talk all we want, but we need something to change, and
Yeah,
that's what we're attempting to do. Okay, so
attempt.
we we first we're creating a new campaign known as a greener planet once
Link
again
in description. Link in description.
to attempt to teach people all around the world about the consequences of plastic pollution and how you yourself can reduce plastic pollution. Without teaching people about the consequence of plastic pollution, we as humankind will not realize the necessity for change, and as a result we will lose the one and only opportunity to make a change. So, as in the greener planet, we give you some steps that you can do right now to help reduce plastic emissions, and I'll be listing them right now. Okay, so firstly, pick up any litter that you see on the streets, especially during this time of health crisis. We're using a tremendous amount of masks, gowns, and gloves, despite the amazing things that they help medical professionals do, they can still be mismanaged by full capacity hospitals. Dispose dispose these single use plastics when you walk by, and remember to wash your hands, obviously. But
Yeah, wash your hands.
remind yourself that what you picked up is one less piece of plastic that is going to be haunting our oceans for the next century. And often it is the smaller things that help us achieve great things in the future.
Yeah, a lot of change that we could do is if a whole community decided to stop littering, minimize their waste by making sure they put their plastic where it needs to go. So they recycle it effectively, they know where it's going, they're well informed. These simple steps will typically have a great impact, even greater than like going out and cleaning out plastic. So we're preventing a whole community from entirely just throwing it away and making them more mindful. That change adds up to a lot. It's a lot in prevention.
Okay, so next, like Soham said just before, inform others about the risks of plastics. Once again, like Soham said, if you were to inform an entire community, that would mean a lot. And although contrary to popular belief, it's the small things help build up the greatness that you're going to achieve in the future if we continue to do that.
Yeah, you can't always think global level for every problem. Most of the global level changes starts out as a smaller and builds up as more support gains over time. And that's what we're hoping to do with a greener planet, which we have as our community change research because we want to change communities. We also have innovations that we use. A lot of it goes into it, and just multiple different things we need to do in order to make change. But I think that global mindset is one really important thing. So that's why this is kind of an extension of that.
Remember that knowledge is power, and
Yes,
sooner
knowledge is
or
power.
later, we will change if we spread our knowledge to the right people at the right time. Okay, so next, use plastic alternatives for daily activities. You might think, oh, that's just one bottle, oh, that's just one styrofoam box or something. But no,
That's one bottle too many.
yes, uh, you have to bring that reusable water bottle instead of that plastic bottle.
It's
Bring
metal.
a couple of cotton bags for shopping rather than those plastic bags at the
Or use
supermarket.
no bags. You don't need to use bags.
Avoid plastic packaging on anything such as soap, and instead opt for packageless items. Buy fresh produce instead of packaged produce. You can do so many things that may seem so small, but we're just reiterating it over and over again. The small things help you achieve the great things if you do it over a long period of time.
It's like there's a meat problem we have where like there's a need to switch to more plant alternatives because we're running out of our animals are going incorrectly. It's like a lot of too much efforts going into raising animals when there's instantly getting killed. So one mindset that meat eaters have about switching to plant alternatives is like it doesn't taste like meat. I'm not getting the true experience. We're not asking you to switch to like the same as that, but for plastic. You don't have to switch to vegan like version of plastic. You don't have to switch to an alternative like made out of starch or something. You can just not use it or use it less frequently, or even simpler, just put it in the recycling bin and know where it's going.
Yeah, so many people think that we need plastic alternatives like starch and PLA and PHA. But we have to remember that plastic is in the same caliber, in the same category as like iron and concrete. And if we stop and think about how valuable plastic actually is, we don't need another alternative. You can simply use plastic in a more ecologically friendly way. And that's how we reduce plastic pollution. That's how we do it.
Yeah, reducing is one really big part of that equation. Because if you guys are not familiar, the United Nations has a plan to like reverse and move for a more sustainable ecosystem um, economy relation by 2030. This is one key part. By 2030, we need to change, or our environment's going to suffer permanently, and we cannot have that.
Right.
Already, species and species have started becoming more extinct. We're losing a lot of our environment, but a lot of people just live in the safety of their own homes and don't realize this. That the nearest park you have probably already has plastic. I live right next to one, and I really value that park because it's good for biking. But at the same time, just like doing simple stuff such as reducing your plastic usage or reducing your plastic waste, because you can use plastic, but plastic needs to be disposed of correctly. It needs to be treated with love, with care. By that I mean shove it in the recycling bin instead of the trash bin. But it's the same thing. It's like all other materials. You need to make sure it goes in the right spot, because if it doesn't, it can be really detrimental.
Oh, and finally, our last step that we tell consumers and people who follow Greener Planet is to just create your ideas and share them to the world. Just like us, we had to start with a couple of ideas. And even today, we're still improving and editing our solutions day by day. Don't be worried or embarrassed about your new solutions. And you never know, you just might make a huge impact on our current plastic pollution crisis.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that take up ideas and hold contests because they also recognize that it's up to our generation to solve these global problems. Rip boomer age, but it's up to our generation, and they hold contests and ways for people to spread their ideas around, so people are more aware of ideas that our generation holds and the change we can have. Each of us are gonna have to achieve something later in our life, so we can start early. We can make sure that all world problems that we face today, by the time we're adults, they could be already out of control. So we had to start taking up action today. Help convince older generations, politicians. We have to start making change. It's never too early. But it's okay. It's never too early, but it can always be too late. Just think about it with that mindset.
As one of our solutions in part of a greener planet, Soham and I created a new article, a new book called Plastic Pollution, exploring the relationship between plastic society and the environment. And our book informs people about the true definition of plastic pollution, how plastic travels, humanity's influence on plastic pollution, and how plastic pollution can affect humankind's health. We also explore future alternatives to plastic and how continued research can lead to life-changing innovations in a plastic industry. Also, we convey how the government, individuals, and corporations can adapt to the current plastic pollution movement, because everyone is now opting for a more greener alternative. Everyone is now
Yeah,
starting to realize, but unfortunately, it's a little bit too late.
it's
Despite
maybe it may be too late to make permanent change. We cannot completely reverse what we've done, but we can always aim to be better, and that's how improvement works. We aim to be better. We may not be able to erase our past mistakes, but we can make sure we can prevent them from happening in the future. That's what is important.
we reiterate in the book that all three sectors, government, individuals, and industries and corporations, all have to cooperate in correlation with science and facts
That's
to
not what you're seeing here in the
significantly
virus, man.
reduce plastic pollution before it's too late.
We cannot keep on continuing to war on science and experts in their fields. We need to make sure that people are working together here to analyze these problems, find solutions, and make sure the general population is aware and working as well. This is
Also,
how we make change. There's a specific formula to it. And if that formula has worked in the past, well, we need to make sure it keeps on working to this point. And the last few years, we've seen this fade, but it's this time. There's no time better than now to do it, to make sure that we are aware, we are ready, and we can do it.
so we've been reiterating about how we re-educate people about consequences of plastic pollution, how we are influencing this crisis. Well, let's move forward to how do we fix what we have done wrong? How do we clean up all the plastics that are already in our oceans and rivers and all bodies of water? Well, we're going to move to another category of plastic mitigation and how we have created an idea to help stop that.
before we do this, just know that there is no possible way, or nearly impossible, because I don't want to be completely certain here. It's never certain. But the amount of plastic that's in there, and the widespreadness of it, the amount of it's a widespread, it's really there. There's no possible way to erase what's there. We cannot get a fresh start. There's no innovation that could possibly do that. But we can make sure that no more goes in there. We have to change it.
So our new innovation is called the PRS, short for Plastic Removal System. And what it basically does, it stops plastics from the source, from rivers, from entering the oceans. Because think of it like this: rivers are essentially arteries, and arteries for the ocean, arteries to fuel our organs, things like that. I'm not a health expert, but I think you get the idea. If we stop river-derived plastics, we can ensure that plastics will never accumulate in oceans. So what it basically does, it stops plastics from entering the oceans and accumulating. Soham was the founder of this, so he has more information on that.
And it's a simple idea that right before it gets to the ocean's a really widespread thing. There's a lot of water. And I mean a lot of water. So then if plastic gets there, it's much harder to cover that amount of area in there. But where do oceans get their water from? They don't get their water from rivers, but rivers do deliver debris and other plastic, especially other stuff there. Rivers kind of collectively push in stuff into this pool like a water slide. So we had to reroute that pollution before it makes it to the ocean, so we can collect it at simple areas, which is easier to handle and collect more efficiently than oceans. So we just what we do is we direct it to a certain collection zone where you have groups of people collecting it and disposing of it properly before it reaches the ocean.
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about this and want a more specific point of view about how this mechanism works, there is a link in this description linking you back to like a video in which we explain about the PRS in a more detailed manner.
But either way, if you ever have questions about what we do and our work, we have a website. You can go check it out. It's at the bottom in the description.
Okay, so let's recap everything that we said. One may think that the things that we are saying are irrelevant and repetitive. However, this information is so important that it needs to be repetitive. Especially with developing research, we are learning new things every day about plastic pollution, like how plastic waste can cause antibiotic-resistant animals, and how the smallest, not the biggest, of plastics can cause harm to all organisms, including us. It is a matter of time before plastics enter the top of the food chain, and by then it will be way too late to counter the effects of plastic pollution. A Greener Planet strives to give you the most relevant information about plastic pollution, and especially when we're all at home, we can truly recognize how much plastic we use. Just create a tally of how much plastic you use in a day and split it into categories such as plastic bottles, straws, bags, etc. And go to our website and take the pledge in the Greener Planet section to create a goal about how many plastics you're going to save each week. Because although you can just save just like 7 plastic bottles a week, but
And that's
if you
7
really
less that makes it to the ocean. That's a good thing.
if you really add it up, it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a couple hundred plastic bottles that you just saved.
Quite a lot.
So and also go to our other channel and the EPRO and watch our EPRO info video series on YouTube. And it just gives you basic information, but sometimes things that you've never heard before, or things that just came out from a study. Like these things, these studies are science. It's truly how we recognize the devastation that plastic pollution is causing.
Yeah.
And when you truly realize right in front of your face that you waste more plastic pollution than you think, you're one step closer to achieving zero plastic pollution in our oceans. Remember that knowledge is power, and the things that we do are dependent on those facts.
Yeah, spread this around. Make sure people are aware. Making sure people are aware is an important step, as we've mentioned multiple times now. At the same time, ideas are also there. So what you do for a perfect formula is people need to generate ideas for change, and we have to put those ideas into action. So be sure to do simple measures yourself, but at the same time, think about how you can each make a difference. Think about what we can all do together about and spread these ideas around. More people that know, the more people that can change, the more plastic and good we can do for the environment as a collective.
And one way you can do that is to subscribe to our two channels, EPRO Podcast and the EPRO. Our main goal as an organization is to inform and teach as many people as possible, as well as attempt to implement our solutions in real life. Every subscriber or follower means everything to us, and we will work our hardest to give you the best information possible so that you learn something new every time.
Yeah. Be sure to subscribe. Shameless plug.
And thanks for joining us today. We'll see you later.
Yeah, the next podcast will come out soon. Be sure to tune in. Spread this around. Make sure people know. We'll see you soon. And leave a like on the video. Thank you. See you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.